Welcome back to Hong Kong and the Asia Investment Conference, where we're taking a closer look at literacy rates and education with John Wood, founder of Room to Read, a nonprofit devoted to raising literacy rates and gender equality in education. John, thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I wanted to ask you, why did you choose literacy?
Literacy to me is one of the most important issues for economic development long-term around the world. Literacy is, of course, the cornerstone of education. Without literacy, a child can't do very well in school, and of course education is a key to long-term economic growth. You see it in the disparity across developed Asia versus developing Asia, right? Some of the most successful economies in the world, be they Hong Kong, Singapore, South Korea, Taiwan, have used education to rise up in the league tables of economic growth. Throughout Asia, you also have hundreds of millions of kids who are illiterate in places like Nepal, Cambodia, Laos, rural India, Sri Lanka. So if we can get kids literate and get them educated, that for me is going to be one of the greatest things we can do to assure long-term economic growth rates across Asia. That 30 years out, 40 years out, we could see a second huge boom based upon the idea of tens of millions of kids getting educated and becoming productive adults.
I've been at this conference now for the week listening to finance ministers and business leaders speaking very often about increasing infrastructure spend in order to keep foreign investor flows coming into their countries. Do you think perhaps they should be spending more time spending on education?
Well, I'm always a big fan of any government or any company or any social movement investing more heavily in education. I think that education, Archimedes said, give me a lever long enough and I can move the earth. To me, education is the thing that moves the earth. But of course, short-term infrastructure spending probably is an efficient way to get economic growth, but longer term, it's education, education, education. We see that around the world, that the educated generations are the ones who lift up their societies economically. They're more socially stable, family health is better. With education, you get that ripple effect. It's the one issue that affects every other issue. So Room to Read is really grateful for all the support we get from so many people at Credit Suisse, from employees who go visit our work, who sponsor libraries and go see it, from guys like Osama Abbasi and Eric and Shauna Varvel, who are very involved in helping me figure out how we continue to grow Room to Read. It's just been a fantastic partnership. And we've reached 5 million children at Room to Read in just our first decade, and we're a total bootstrap, right? We didn't start off being rich or famous. We just basically were like any entrepreneur. We just got started. What makes me most optimistic is that we can reach at least 20 million kids by the end of our second decade. And if you think about that for a minute, that ripple effect is not just the 20 million kids, it's then they might have 40 or 60 million children themselves, 100 million plus grandchildren who have an educated parent or grandparent. And so everything, I think, starts right there.
You've spoken a little bit about corporate involvement in Room to Read and contribution. How do you get the governments on board? Because surely in the end, they have to be involved very heavily in education.
Definitely. The governments are a very important part of Room to Read's strategy. Every school we build, every library we establish is a partnership between the Ministry of Education, which provides and pays for the teachers, which is what they're supposed to be doing, so Room to Read holds them accountable for doing that. The local community co-invests by donating land and donating labor, and then what Room to Read brings to the party are our talented local employees, corporate support, individual support for projects. So every Room to Read school, and there's now 1,442 schools opened, there's 11,000 libraries open with 9 million books. Every one of those projects is a partnership between the corporate community, Room to Read, the local ministries of education, and of course the local community, which provides a sweat equity to the projects.
John, well, thanks very much for your time and good luck with this project.
Thanks for having me.
That was John Wood of Room to Read.